Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Tony V. We're going to be reading today from a section in Mystic Americanism by R.S. Clymer. You know, I've had this book in my physical possession for a while now. I've made a couple videos. You can go back and look. You'll see Mystic Americanism within the videos. But I thought this was important to just go over some things in relation to Atlantis, reincarnation, and just some things that are really important that really stick to my soul. And I hope you learned something, and let's get started. America was not by accident. In pursuit of our spiritual heritage, we are guided by the words of Dr. Paschal Beverly Randolph. Quote, "There is a chronology of soul as well as of material history." Unquote. And further, as we read on in his Pre-Adamite Man, quote, "Every nation under heaven, our own beloved America especially, has a buried history, as well as the living one, recorded on paper and in human memories." Unquote. Nothing greater or more important could have been said as regards the antiquity of ancient America, which is to follow on these pages, helping to explain the ancient American civilizations and their places in the drama of the heavens. In delving into this most intriguing aspect, we are led to feel, as did one of the early learned writers on American antiquities, speaking of the many discoveries in South and North America, that America is to be again discovered. There are existing monuments of an American ancient history which invite study, and most of which might doubtless have been studied more successfully in the first part of the 16th century, before nearly all the old books of Central America had been destroyed by the conquistadors then at present. What a select group of investigators might have done on America, for instance, 450 years ago is easily understood. Remains of an ancient civilizations, differing to some extent in degree and character, are found in three great sections of the American continent: the west side of South America, between Chile and the first or second degree of north latitude, Central America and Mexico, and the valleys of the Mississippi and the Ohio. These regions have all been explored to some extent, showing the significance and importance of the archaeological remains, most of which were already mysterious antiquities when the continent was discovered by Columbus. Why should the spiritual heritage of America be of importance, interest, and concern to the student particularly, and every American for that matter? It may be asked why those who have entered into the rest of the unseen should be at all concerned in the unfoldment and development of the race who are ever toiling over the rocky paths of the planet. If the doctrine of reincarnation is true, then would it be not in the best interest of the coming egos of personality for all the race of men to be advanced just as far as possible, so that the reincarnated from time to time might receive the highest advantage attainable from their touch with the earth at any particular time? Those who are coming back into the present civilization, if they were of the advanced and cultured classes of Atlantis and the most ancient Egypt, would find more advantages of acquirement through our leisure and experience than when hurled into the life amid the horrors and darkness of the Stone Age. From time to time, the material and data obtained as hereinafter described, from which this book is made, have been pressed upon our attention as something that would be of use and interest to all who are seeking to know. We do not doubt the authenticity of the information nor the statements given as facts by those who were so kind and courteous as to make the writer their mouthpiece in this recollection of the ancient memories. We do not doubt that to many readers will come fleeting glimpses of these scenes, as if they had been part of them. It is a conceded fact there have never been, since the fall of Atlantis, so many reincarnated Atlanteans upon the earth at the same time as now. This accounts for the almost universal demand out of the astral, higher realms, records for the forgotten knowledge of the occult which they there recorded. This also explains the readiness of the public mind to receive knowledge of the doctrines of mental healing, spiritualism, theosophy, and occultism in all its branches. The key herein then to the question is not alone the belief or the doctrine of reincarnation, but the law of reincarnation and the attendant karma accompanying the individual throughout the various episodes of Earth life. In other words, those who now find themselves in America have been drawn to America through this law, and they are where they are because they have earned that right or deserve to be here under the law. It was a doctrine of the Atlanteans that the body of the physical which enwraps us is adapted to the need of the ego holding it, as a manifestation of the processes of accomplishment. If the ego coming back into the lives cannot accomplish its own unfolding, save through some particular experience, it compasses that particular experience if it is within its possibilities. From age to age, from generation to generation, that which stands behind all is ever the same. That which overshadows all is a part of the divine existence, is one with the one, a part of the divine existence, indivisible and always the same. This was the primary knowledge taught first in the forests amid the rocks and mountains, and afterward in the great temple built by the Atlanteans, and later it spread to those centers of Egypt and other parts of the world. The Egyptians claimed that during life the ego directed all actions of the body through the forces emanating from that point of the heavens in which the pole star is situated. This is the reason why the entrance to the pyramid is invariably turned mathematically towards the pole star. After death, the Egyptians conserved the physical body by mummification, thus preventing the dissemination of the physical cells. The Egyptians, being well versed in the law of reincarnation, sought to put it to use to assure the return of their truly great men to their country, through the complex process of mummification which is well known. The Egyptians, being well versed in the law of reincarnation, sought to put it to use to assure the return of their truly great men in their country through the complex process of mummification, which is well known. What is not so well known, however, in addition to the intricate embalming process and procedure, is the process of fixing the astral energy so-called around the body, which otherwise would have governed the decomposition of the physical form. Remembering, however, that they were dealing with highly advanced individuals and initiates, they went even further. By an extremely complicated ritual of magic and ceremony, they summoned the astral forces revolving around the pole star, and forced them into the double of the mummy. This double they caused to incarnate, either in the mummy itself or in small wooden or terracotta statues placed around the mummy. The Egyptians, therefore, built veritable subterranean cities of living astral beings, and they were thus able to act first on the physical astral by fixing for a very long period of time the pole of civilization on their land, and afterwards by fighting with the weapons of science against the forces of destiny to delay the reincarnation of human souls. At first glance, this may be looked upon with disfavor by some and assumed to be in violation of divine law, which it certainly is not, in that this procedure and method was undertaken by the advanced individual in full use of his free will and desire to remain for a period of time in his beloved land of Egypt, in this case, and that when he did reincarnate, that it would again be in the land of Egypt. This entire concept is no different than that undertaken by the elderly or aged man or woman who, having lived a long and fruitful life, desires that they be laid to rest now and not undergo the pains of prolonging a life with tubes, needles, drugs, and machinery with wires and electronic equipment, and when they do reincarnate, do so in their country of choice. Nor is this concept of the Egyptians not in keeping with present-day thought in the field of outer space. When we hear of plans that will put certain individuals to sleep through the use of scientifically controlled low temperatures producing artificial hibernation or its equivalent, with the thought of sending them off on long missions which would require years and then awakening by electronically controlled programming devices to carry on their duties. The reincarnation of the double among the Egyptians was a form of abnormal reincarnation which existed on the earth for many centuries. The Egyptians were well versed in the greatness of the Atlanteans. They wished to fight face to face against nature's most terrible forces. They compelled the terrestrial magnetic pole to remain in Egypt for more than 55 centuries, whereas the normal period of evolution of this pole is 1.5 centuries. They also desired to fight against the law of reincarnation, which they understood so well. To achieve this end, as noted above, they controlled the astral body by ritual and ceremony, which preceded the introduction of the mummy in its tomb, and by this process prevented part of the astral evolution, also part of the spiritual evolution. In order to succeed in this operation, however, a combination of circumstances was required, which was seldom realized or fulfilled. It may therefore be said that in spite of all their knowledge and all their ritualistic powers, the Egyptians succeeded in controlling the double about once in 1,000 attempts, and even this is a fair average. Deferred desire in reincarnation. More and more interest is being shown in the doctrines of karma and reincarnation as thinkers are refusing further acceptance of the various teachings which were grafted upon the ancient Gnostic philosophy and then termed Christianity. Among the most prominent of these refuted doctrines are the vicarious atonement, justification by faith, and the forgiveness of sins, all wholly unworthy of consideration by minds which are essentially honest and willing to be responsible for their own debts. As a matter of fact, the honest, sincere, and generous heart is willing to take upon itself the sins of a beloved one rather than have that one made to suffer. How much more, then, do we shudder at the thought of heaping our miserable weakness and misdeeds upon one whom we profess to love and revere? Any such intent and desire to avoid our just returns and place them on the back of another, much as Atlas is supposed to carry the world on his shoulders, which myth gave the church fathers their idea of Jesus being sponsor for all, is unworthy of any honest man. Before us is a letter with this statement, question, quote, "For several years I have had a desire to own and operate a farm, and although I have made 2 attempts in this direction, they have been thwarted in some manner, and I have come out the loser in each attempt. No doubt I shall get my desire in the future, or at least in the next reincarnation, provided I work hard enough for it." According to our teachings, such a desire, if deep enough, is carried over to the next incarnation. Is this desire sufficient to make one adapted to such work in the next incarnation? In other words, does one carry over from this incarnation to the next his abilities and talents, as well as qualities of the soul? It is my idea that an adaptability is more of the physical nature and would not necessarily be carried over, but if any talent or solical qualification being of the subconscious mind and soul would be carried over. Will you please tell me if this is correct? Unquote. This question might be asked regarding any activity of life, and the answer is therefore applicable to any problem as well as to every effort which may have been unsuccessfully made by any one in this life. As a matter of fact, there is no certainty that the writer of the above question has finally failed in his efforts. In spite of 2 failures, if he will carefully analyze the entire experience in each case, he will see that it is easily possible that the cause of failure may be found and that the 3rd attempt may be entirely successful, especially as the questioner is still young and may have every opportunity in time to try again. However, if the desire persists and there is not another fair opportunity to try, then the correct method to pursue is to gather all the knowledge possible covering this field of activity. Such study becomes part of the soul and is carried with that soul as an integral part of itself which will remain with it when so-called death steps in. Thus far, adaptability does not enter. Now, if that soul has been thoroughly charged with this desire to be a farmer, so that it has become magnetized, directed, and controlled by the desire, and every soul should be so magnetized by some one great desire, Then after its required stay in the soul realm, this soul will be drawn by means of the vibrations which are created by the desire to a mother living in such environments as will give that soul, when reincarnated in a body, every opportunity, all the means, with the location or environment, so that the soul in its new body will be enabled to apply both its love for farming and its knowledge of the science, and in this way become entirely successfully, possibly an authority on the subject, if not indeed a leader of others. Such a leader was Burbank in plant culture, and such leaders were Edison and Steinmetz in the electrical field. It is well to remember that desire alone is not sufficient to carry one into the proper environments for success in any special line in the next incarnation. It is absolutely necessary that the possessor of such a desire make every effort to prepare himself thoroughly, so that, should the opportunity present itself, even in this life, he will be ready and fully prepared to embrace it. This is the law and applies to the pursuit of any profession, vocation, or avocation for which man may have a love. The importance of this example is to serve as a guideline, and also provide further explanation for the thinking and knowledge possessed by the Egyptian Atlantean civilization regarding man's opportunity here and now in the planning for his reincarnation. To sum it up, to the ego of mankind who has love for his country, America, this present incarnation is the lodestone of his future incarnations. Any self-sacrifice for the outer world is magnetic, spiritualizing in that it generates the light which is to become the vehicle of the spirit on the next plane. Any contraction of the spirit internally, be it through selfishness, anger, envy, or slothfulness, is non-magnetic, materialistic, nourishing the negativism of karmic indebtedness, barring entrance to higher realms of being. The man who knows, forgives, and prays recognizes that material things, worldly riches, or worldly honors are instruments entrusted to him for the good of others also, and he has no right to monopolize these for his own benefit unjustly. In this man, instead of sitting in the ivory armed chair allotted to him, the ego asks the Father that he may be really useful on earth and that he may become one of his true soldiers. He then leaves his ivory throne, allows others who have earned the right to receive the worldly honors which were due him, and goes into the fields and finds seeds for the improvement of future harvests. During this series of evolution and involutions, the physical and physical universe pursues its onward course in time and in space, so that this series of rises and falls of the ego only are perceived by that ego, and have no influence on the general progress of the universe. This is illustrated by the example of a steamer, the universe, pursuing its onward course, heedless of the ascents and descents of the passengers from the deck to the different classes into which the cabins are divided in the boat. The passengers enjoy complete freedom, though this is limited by the forward progress of the steamer which is carrying them all. During the series of evolutions, deaths, and involutions, births, experienced by the immortal spirit, the ego passes through various social grades according to its behavior in former existences. Between its reincarnations, the immortal spirit enjoys a condition of bliss corresponding to the ideal which it had created during its incarnation. The wealthy man who made a wrong use of his wealth, or the man of authority who abused his power, will reincarnate under conditions whereby he will be condemned to struggle against adversity nearly all his life. This adversity does not come from God. It comes from the use which the immortal spirit made of his will in former This adversity does not come from God. It comes from the use which the immortal spirit made of his will in former lives. But during this incarnation, the spirit will be able to regain a part of what he lost through patience and tribulations and perseverance and struggle. Progress, therefore, is possible for everyone in general, and also immediately for every individual in particular. Each being, however, is capable immediately of ascending or descending in the social scale, either during his present lifetime or in his next reincarnation. In the invisible world are words of life written in a book, of which a few pages have been read by spirits in a state of ecstasy. They are the origin of all the religious commandments of every true leader of men. The law of reincarnation is written in this book. It is not the invention of a human mind, nor the spurious creation of a frenzied imagination. As the sun rises in the visible world to banish the shades of night and fill us with its creative light, so does the law of reincarnation shine as the sun in the invisible worlds. It dispels philosophical errors, enlightens souls in their work, demonstrates the imminent justice of every action and reaction on every plane, and justifies the immortal cry of the spirit which is reunited to its ancestors, saying, quote, "Praise to thee, my Father. In spite of all my sins and weakness, thou hast never forsaken me." So that'll clear that up for this little chapter here. I'm hoping y'all enjoyed that, man. Some really deep jewels that you can grasp from a lot of this information that Dr. R.S. Clymer writes about. But we're going to be diving into some information in relation to the old mound builders, the Aztecs, the Ohio Valley, more in relation to this book here that's in this book as well here in the next few episodes. We're just going to get deep, man. We're going to get deeper and deeper and deeper as we put everything together. So I appreciate y'all being with me. It's Tony V. You know what it is. Link Network, baby. Let's get to the knowledge and let knowledge empower our people for ages to come.